Initializing.
Welcome to Infinite Guides. I'm Zacubus. This is the guidebook into Infinite Crisis, and today's lesson is about the power-ups. They're incredibly vital across the map on Gotham Divided, and they're very overlooked for new players especially. So let's have a look at what they can do, and also let's check out the surveillance cameras as well, because they're very important and should be used and abused. So I've gone into super slow-mo to show you where the surveillance cameras are, just in case you missed it. But yeah, it's a giant purpley towery thing. Basically, there are 3 surveillance cameras to start off with, so you can only pick up 1 per person, so spread them out between your team. You can only carry 1 power-up or 1 surveillance camera at a time. If you try and pick up something else, like another power-up, if you've got a surveillance camera, it will just delete whatever you had, and you have whatever you picked up. So be careful with that, as it can be quite annoying. Also to notice that the cameras are constantly respawning throughout the game, so you should always have some form of constant vision across your mini-map. There's no excuse why there shouldn't be a camera in some stealth pad somewhere. And also just to note is that even though that you get all these lovely free cameras about the place, it's still wise to pick up the stolen power surveillance cameras. I've got Robins here, as I fear I was going to get ganked lots in this game, so I actually got more surveillance cameras than I needed. I sprinkled the place everywhere with surveillance cameras, as you can see here. So yeah, I just overprotective, but it's good to always have more information on the map available to you, and I suggest that support still get the cameras as well. They're always useful to teleport to, or you know, just have that extra vision and just cover more map. So let's talk about the power-ups. These things can be game changing, and a lot of people in the public games that I've played have no idea what they are. They're just not familiar with it with their previous game experience, and it's a whole different unique taste on the MOBA genre. First we have the speed pad. This obviously gives a movement speed buff. Then we have the EMP pad, which disables towers and drones, and then we have the HP pad, or the health pad. This regenerates will and health. Now each of these abilities can be upgraded to their tier 2 level. This means that they have different utilities, and mostly it's team orientated, especially in the health pad and the speed pad in particular. The EMP pad just gets a longer duration, but I'm going to go into more detail of what these things can do in a minute. And I just wanted to show you the footage here to show you the difference between the icons at tier 1 and tier 2, as it can be quite confusing later on when you're trying to pick up a tier 2 item and you picked up a tier 1 and it goes all horribly wrong. Now the really cool thing about these power-ups is how they are deployed in the battlefield. So I'm going to pick up this health pad here, and Shazam's been asking for help for a while now. He needs some help up there. He's been constantly ganked, and he is about to again. So here's a perfect opportunity to actually deploy the health pad. Now, as you can see, I'm almost still in base. The range on these things, on the health and the speed pad in particular, are huge. And if you see in the bottom right corner on the minimap, that's how far the range is. And I drop it in. So now this will give some health and will regen to Shazam once he picks up the health icon in the middle there. But also, if you notice, Joker actually received some damage as well, because he took it on the noggin. He just headbutted that thing. So it does 100 true damage to begin with, and then it scales up into the late game, as well as the health. The health also scales up, so the more levels you have, the more regen it will do. So it's always a very key item. It saves so many people's lives. And also, once you've taken the health pack, as you've just seen there, a timer will appear on the pack, slowly ticking around, and then it will respawn. You have 3 charges on it, or the pad itself lasts for 180 seconds before it expires. Now, where the tier 1 health is really great early game sustain on those lanes, the tier 2 is a different story. It's more team fight oriented. So we've spotted the enemy trying to get this raider, and we're going to try and intercept them with the health emitter going in first, and then diving into the fight while that health is regenning us up. It does 3% health regen while you're standing it per second, 1% energy regen, and 1% will regen as well. Also to note is that the health emitter drop only lasts for 30 seconds, so you've got to use it at the right moment at the right time. Plus the fact that if the enemy hits it 3 times, it will just blow up. Next up, let's talk about the EMP Emitter. It's one of the most useful power-ups in the game, if you ask me. And as you can see, Mecha Wonder Woman here is getting some damage from me. She's trying to escape, and she thinks she's safe by her tower, but not if I drop an EMP on it. It's going to disable the drones near it and the tower up to 4 seconds at tier 1 and up to 8 seconds at tier 2. Now the only bad point is the drop range of the EMP pad. It is much shorter than the health pad and the speed pad. It's literally tiny. You have to be right on top of a tower to use it. Now I'm going to quickly show you this footage in slow motion again, as there's a detail I left out that all the drop pads, including the health and the speed, do damage to the tower. As you can see, Mecha Wonder Woman gets damage as well as the tower. Now another great thing about the EMP is that it can be used on the Leviathan and the Raider, the map objectives basically, and you can save yourself some damage, or just be able to solo the Raider or the Leviathan early on in the game, which is a huge deal really. And when you can get that, that's a lot of XP and a lot of credits going your way. The final power up you can pick up in your base is the speed pad. This thing is incredibly useful for those early game ganks, and because it gives you a 35% movement speed buff for 7 seconds, it's incredibly tough to get away even if you have escaped. So here I'm planting it out of sight so the enemy can't see it, and now I'm going to surprise Gaslight Batman, and he uses one escape and then he even uses super speed and he just can't get away from me, and that's what's so brilliant about it. It's such a great gap closer. Now, like the health pad, this also has multiple charges on it. You can pick it up twice before it explodes into nothingness, or if you leave it there, it will stay on the map for 180 seconds, then explode. So the tier 2 power up for the speed emitter, is actually really good for taking out team objectives, because it gives you attack speed, so you'll be attacking things a lot quicker, 35% quicker, and also when you're still in the little orange zone you also get a movement speed buff as well. So this is great for team fight potentials and dodging and kiting out of the way of potential enemies. So this clip is just a quick example of how to use multiple power-ups in this situation. So we want to stop them getting this Leviathan, so we put the speed pad down right on top of them, doing damage, and now that we've got that insane attack speed buff, we can just go ham on the enemy team. But after we've finished with the enemy team, we want to finish off this Leviathan, so we're going to drop an EMP on it as well to disable it. That way we'll receive no damage and we can easily take this down, gaining huge map objectives and also more power-ups, as the Leviathan drops 2 of them, which is the Lockdown and also the Leviathan Shield. These things are incredibly useful tools, which I'll explain about now. So the first skill is Leviathan's Lockdown. Now this skill, in a short radius, will freeze opponents for 5 seconds. They won't be able to do anything. They're just stuck as a statue. You can't attack them either in this state either. If you attack them, you'll do no damage. So what does it do? It gives you that time you need to set up your team to coordinate a massive attack. Or we can use it to actually zone out the enemy that we want to kill first, and then come back for the rest later. So Catwoman here was out of the zone of the lockdown, so we could target her first, take her out if she was a main threat, and then focus on the rest of the team later. On the other hand, if you're losing a fight, you can use it to get away. These are the main reasons you use this for, and just figuring out what you can combine it with, especially with the power-ups that I've explained earlier, using it and then slam dunking people with power-ups on top of it once the cooldown is gone. You can do incredible teamwork synergy with this item indeed. Now next up is the Leviathan Shield, and it works very similar to Doomsday's Invulnerability or Shazam's Invulnerability. This thing is a little bit more severe because it gives your teammates in a local area 400 health points extra for 10 seconds. So the enemy has to do twice as much work to actually kill you, giving you a lot of time to push and just be so aggressive, dive over the towers or whatever. But your enemy is usually focused just to fall back for those next 10 seconds, so it gains you a lot of ground and gives you a lot of push momentum. Now the last power up I'm going to talk about is from the Raider drop, and it is the Surveillance Tower. This is like a super camera. It can be placed practically anywhere on the map from where you're standing from. Now if I zoom into the mini-map here, you can see how huge that radius is where I can plant the Surveillance Tower from. It's a massive bonus for map control. It means I don't have to risk myself going into their urban jungle if I want to plant this offensively in their jungle, because I can do it from my side of the map almost. So instead of getting smaller cameras and risking myself going in there, getting ganked and being discovered and then counter-cameraed, this thing can just do it across the map, which is amazing. But also it can detect stealth and it has a larger vision range as well. And if you do not find it and kill it, it will stay there the entirety of the game. So it's a huge bonus to have lots of these if you can get them. I think personally they work defensively in your baseline because it's harder for them to push in because you see everything coming. But the thing is, they're very easy to find. They don't have a stealth function on them, and it takes 10 hits to kill them. So I've explained how the power-ups work and how you can use them in different scenarios, but you actually have to go out and farm them and collect them. And Basically, you can find them in your urban jungle most of the time. So this is the health destroyer. There's one on my side of the map, and there's another one on the enemy side of the map as well. So if I take this, I will get a tier 1 in my base, which I can pick up. But if I take theirs as well at the enemy jungle, I'll be able to get tier 2 even sooner. Otherwise, I'll have to wait 5 minutes before the health destroyer respawns again, and then I can upgrade to tier 2 then. So you can risk it by going into the enemy jungle, but they might discover you and they might kill you. So usually you want to be using your jungler to go out and get all those power-ups in your jungle, and also coordinate when you need to get the bigger items as well, like the Raider and the Leviathan as well. That should be the jungler's job to decide that. But here, this is where you can find the health destroyers on the minimap, and here's where you can find the agile destroyers and also the pulse destroyers, which are the EMP guys. Next up is the Raider and the Leviathan. Now these things can actually switch up. They depends on which pod you open up first. So just to show you, I'm going to go back into in-game and show you what I mean. These pods drop down, and it's whichever one you open first becomes the Raider, and then the opposite become the Leviathan. Always make sure that you go and find out where the Raider is, or open up a pod if it hasn't been opened. That way you can know where the Leviathan will be when it first spawns. So that kind of wraps up the power-ups in Infinite Crisis. I hope you guys enjoyed this Infinite guide. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, dislike. Give me some constructive feedback. It's always helpful, even if you didn't like it or you had ideas which could have been done differently. That would be really cool if you guys would post it up, and make sure to stick around for some more Infinite guides. Now I'll leave a few examples of why I love using these power-ups. It's mainly because I like to steal kills from other people.